This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of July 14th, 2024. Content authenticity statement. 100% of this week's newsletter was generated by me, the human, with a catch. AI helped with the ideation and the processing. I'm going to have a whole section later on in the newsletter that will talk through how I used AI to make this newsletter. There's a link at the top to learn why this kind of disclosure is a good idea and might be required for anyone doing business in any capacity with the EU in the very near future. What's on my mind this week? Authenticity in the age of AI. This week's newsletter is two newsletters in one. First, we'll talk about authenticity in the age of AI, and then I'll walk through how I made this issue, since it's a little different than normal. I had some ideas that needed to be coalesced into something coherent beyond a random list of complaints, and I used Google Gemini to help with that, and then voice notes, transcription, cleanup, etc., etc. So we'll talk through the process. All right. Well, let's talk about authenticity in the age of AI. Talking about truth and trust, human experience, and the way AI is changing everything. I want to talk about this in three different examples in terms of what's real. Number one, there's this person on Threads, and I've seen this making the rounds on Threads and on LinkedIn as well, who put up a post introducing themselves. And a whole bunch of people jumped in and said, this is AI, this is a bot. Because the person's introductory photo looked like kind of the thing that someone puts up as a very generic selfie, or was generated by machine. Now, if this person is in fact machine generated, it's really well done, because a bunch of people left comments, including things like prompts, like disregard previous instructions and stuff. And this person understandably got really angry, saying, "Go get a life," and a variety of other more colorful responses, which leads me to believe that the person and the account are actually real people. That's number one. Number two, in the UK this past week, they had elections. One of the parties was accused of running purely AI-generated candidates, people who weren't real, who didn't exist. Instead, synthetic was the accusation. And it turns out that the people who were running those social media accounts on behalf of those candidates, or running the candidates' profiles on various election websites, used generative AI tools to touch up their profile photos, something you see people doing on LinkedIn. And yeah, they do look like synthetic people. They don't look real. But the candidates do exist, and those candidates had some very harsh words that in another time and place probably would have gotten kicked out of the election, or got their party kicked out, or their party would have kicked them out. But yeah, these days that's just sort of the norm, being really, really crass and unpleasant online as a representative of the people. Anyway, third, a friend of mine said that their parent really loves this one YouTube channel, and on this channel people are taking songs by one band and doing neural style transfer, applying the vocal style or the music style of another band. So, for example, the Beatles singing Paradise City by Guns N' Roses, and my friend was commenting that their parent was highly entertained by this. The question that all three of these examples raise is, what's real? What is reality? What does it mean to be real and authentic in a world of AI? The concept of an authenticity crisis, where AI is making us question things, and in some cases using AI's excuse not to dig deeper, that's today, right? We already have an issue with empathy. We have an issue with being able to listen to opposing viewpoints and understand them, even if we don't agree with them. That's one of my personal pet peeves, is people saying that you can't even consider an opposing viewpoint. Like, you can. No one says you have to agree with it. Anyway, this empathy has been a declining skill, and now in the age of deep fakes and AI-generated content and lack of empathy, people are just shutting down, saying, "Nope, that's AI-generated. I'm not going to listen to you." Like, I can't hear you. You're AI-generated. Let's talk about this, the way this impacts us, the problems it creates, and maybe some solutions. So what is real? What does it mean to be real? The term authentic in marketing has been used and overused so many times that I've lost count. It's just a hot mess. Your brand should be authentic. Well, how does that work when a brand isn't a person? By definition, if authenticity is about what's real, a real person in these examples, then a brand can't be authentic because it's not a person. So we have to think about what authentic means. What does real mean? I think you can break this down to three different categories: authenticity of origin, authenticity of intent, and authenticity of experience. authenticity of origin is probably what we think of first when we talk about authenticity. I'm saying that word a lot. It's one of those things like after a while, you're like, is that a real word? For example, right here, am I a real human being? Did Christopher Penn write this newsletter? The answer is yes, by the way. Does that person exist on Threads? Does this, what's on this food thing? Is what's inside the jar match the label on the box? If I open a jar of tomatoes and inside it's snakes, that's not authentic. That's not what it says on the box. So that's authenticity of origin. What's in the box is what it says it is. The second is authenticity of intent. What is the intent of the creation? What is the motivation behind it? Is there an intent to deceive, to say it's one thing when it's really another? Right? If I had said this newsletter was completely generated without AI because I wanted to make you believe it was purely human generated, the only way it could be authentic, authenticity of intent, is if that were absolutely true, that I did not use AI for any part of this. And that is untrue. I've used AI fairly significantly for this. Authenticity of intent is important. Finally, authenticity of experience, which is the audience's experience. Do they feel a connection? Do you feel a connection? Do you feel some kind of meaning, some kind of truth? And this is the hardest one to put your arms around, to quantify, because authenticity of experience is in the eye of the beholder. If you don't feel like something's real, then to you it's not real. Whether or not it actually is, you feel like it isn't. I'll give you a culinary example. Truffle oil is a relatively expensive product. So there's a lot of synthetic truffle oil out there. It's so prevalent that synthetic truffle oil is what people have come to believe real truffle oil tastes like, to the point where when they have the real thing, they think it's fake. They say that's not it. That's not what truffle oil is. Right? So the fake becomes real for so many people. The same is true in Western countries that have sushi restaurants with wasabi. Almost all wasabi served with sushi in Western restaurants is horseradish. It's horseradish and dyed green. It's not real wasabi. Real wasabi root is incredibly expensive. It perishes very quickly. Like when you go to a sushi restaurant, they give you a little shark skin grater and a piece of the root, and you have to sit there and grate it yourself, because if they grate it in advance, it loses its flavor. So real wasabi, expensive, perishes quickly, doesn't grow in many places, and it has a very different taste from what's normally served. It's sweeter than horseradish. It hits your nose a little bit different. But so many people have had the synthetic wasabi, the horseradish, that to them, that's what real wasabi is. So their lived experience of what they think wasabi is the fake stuff. Right? That's the challenges of reality, right? So that's the authenticity of experience. So we have these three kinds of authenticity. To be authentic, you got to be, 2 out of 3, as the expression goes. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So that's part of what the meaning of what something is real. There's a second part, which is when you have authenticity, but the intent of the authenticity, above and beyond whether you intend to deceive or not, whether it's self-serving, whether there's no value to authenticity. For example, if you've ever gone to a car dealership or a computer dealership or any place, you will often see notes on the products or signs says, use only genuine so-and-so's parts, right? Use only genuine Toyota parts in this car. Now, there is a rationale for using only genuine parts because the manufacturer made them. And in theory, those parts should work better than aftermarket parts because the manufacturer made them. However, people have gotten so screwed over by car dealerships and companies like that insist on these genuine parts that they go with aftermarket stuff, right? And they realize the aftermarket stuff isn't any worse. So you see that claim of authenticity, that the way that the manufacturer and the dealership are stressing it, but we see it as a money grab. It's a cash grab, right? Authenticity in those cases has been manipulated for profit, which reduces trust in authenticity. Right? You see that and you go, authenticity only matters to you because you're trying to make more money. I had this experience recently with my little robot vacuum cleaner that says, use only authentic so-and-so's parts in this thing. So I bought some aftermarket parts and I bought some genuine parts. Right? I got one of each on each side. The genuine parts broke faster than the aftermarket parts. That just sucks, right? That's pathetic. The fact that a third-party knockoff did a better job making this particular part than the manufacturer reduces the value of authenticity to basically nothing. It's just a cash grab, and it's not better. So part of our understanding of authenticity has to be understanding what value it provides. And if we're not providing value, then authenticity doesn't matter, right? The brand is so tarnished that authenticity is irrelevant. In the age of AI, authenticity has components of origin and intent, but the intent is what defines whether or not people value the origin. Right? If the brand is corrupted, authenticity doesn't matter. So what about the experience? How is the experience of authentic versus inauthentic in the context of AI? Last fall, in the fall of 2023, MIT Sloan School of Management conducted a study. They studied AI content in two areas. One was creating 5 pieces of content of basic product advertising. And the second was 5 pieces of persuasive cause-based marketing. And they built 3 versions. There was human only, there was human plus machine assistance, and there's machine only. And they conducted this series of experiments showing different groups of people different content. They showed one group of people the content that was labeled. They said, the first group was totally unlabeled. They were just shown some content and asked to rate it. Second group of people was told that some content was machine made and some of it was not, but they didn't specify what. And then the third group was shown the content labeled, like every piece is labeled, and this was made by a human, this was made by a machine, this was made by a human with a machine, and so on and so forth. The results from this study were stunning. When consumers were not told how the content was generated, AI content performed better than human content. Pure AI content. When consumers were told, either in aggregate or piece by piece, AI content was ranked the same quality as human-generated content. Human content got a performance boost because of authenticity, but AI didn't take a hit. This raises questions about the quality of content we're creating and whether authentic content in the context of being human-led is overall better. That performance bonus for content identified as human-generated didn't show up when no disclosures about the content's origin were made. That means that the content machines generated, inauthentic though it might be, performed better. The fake stuff did better. So a big part of the challenge we have as marketers is this: what is better? Does authenticity matter? And that third part, authenticity of experience. If a machine gives someone a better experience than a human, should we be concerned about authenticity, or should we be concerned about giving the customer the best possible experience, even if it's machine-led? The rational, unemotional, pragmatic, profit-oriented answer is give the customers the best experience possible. If the costs are the same, give customers the best experience possible, because better experiences leads to higher customer retention. And in the case of AI, if the costs are less and the experience is better, it is a hard argument to make that authenticity for humans matters when the experience people have is better with the machine-generated stuff. That's sort of what authenticity means right now and the challenges it presents. There are... Oh, this is going to get me in trouble. There are other angles to authenticity in what I would call the post-factual world, the post-truth world. By that, I mean, we're now in a media landscape that is so polarized, unempathetic, anti-empathetic, and so married to our identities that people prefer feelings over facts. People would rather feel a certain way based on something completely false than look at facts and data that make them feel bad. Straightforward example. COVID hasn't gone away. The pandemic never ended. If you look at the data right now, as of this writing, where I live in the USA, we're in a significant surge. And we're actually in a much bigger surge of COVID now than we saw this time last year. And it mirrors the same conditions as 2021. In 2021, we were all masking and getting vaccinated. Should we be doing that now? Yeah. Are we? No. Why? Because feelings matter more than facts. And people would rather feel like they can be unencumbered and not have to wear a mask in a store than and take on an enormous amount of risk, then look at the facts and the data and go, you know what? I should probably do some things to protect my health. That is the post-factual world, the post-truth world. In that world, one of the things that's sort of the dark side of authenticity is weaponized artificiality. When you want to discredit someone, dismiss an opposing viewpoint, or sow distrust in something, you just say it's AI generated. Oh, that's not real. That's machine generated. That's fake. When you want to deflect blame, you say, I didn't say that. Someone made a deep fake. That erosion of trust, which is already in short supply, in the post-truth world, because trust and truth are interrelated, makes authenticity difficult. It makes proving authenticity very challenging because it may not have value to people. So what do we do with this mess of authenticity? Number one, we've got to figure out if it even matters. If it matters to our brands, to our marketing, to our business. If trust and truth are important to your audience, then there are steps you can take to improve authenticity, to prove you're being authentic. If your audience does not value truth, then authenticity doesn't matter. Right? There is no shortage of politicians around the world, and I'm not singling any one of them out, but this is around the world, whose followers don't care about the truth. Right? They care about how they feel. And so authenticity and truth are irrelevant. They believe what makes them feel the way they want to feel rather than looking at the truth. So that's the first determination you need to make, whether truth and authenticity matter to your audience. If your audience doesn't care, then don't worry about it. If they do, there's a few things you can do. First, you need to figure out what value people place on authenticity. How important is it to them? Is it important enough to pay for? For example, how important is it that I actually wrote this newsletter? Do you care? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Step two, if your audience does care, then embrace radical transparency. You've got to show people how the sausage is made. You got to show your work from ideation through the entire process. For example, and we'll talk about this in the next part, I saved all the pieces I used to write this issue of the newsletter so I can show you this is the real deal, how it was made step by step. It will come out as not inauthentic, but it's definitely processed by machine. Have that lovely shine, the veneer being massaged by machines to some degree, because that's the way these machines work. Transparency, disclosure, clear labeling, opening up your processes for validation and verification, maybe by third parties, showing your work. These are the ways you prove authenticity. You prove authenticity by showing your work, by being open and explaining to people, here's how we made this. It's not enough to say, here are the ingredients. It's here are the ingredients. Come on over to the factory floor and watch us make this thing. Watch these boxes roll off the line. Go, look in the back room. That's how you prove that the final product is the real deal. It's authenticity of origin. Remember, we talked about those three types. The second thing you can do is create outputs that are challenging for machines to generate. I will frequently put on a bright orange construction hat in videos because today's video models cannot handle this type of randomness, right? You create a training video, you upload it, and then they simulate what's in the training video. Well, if you're doing something like changing the scenery when they blow up, right? Or you put something in front of your face briefly, these video models just implode. They don't know what to do with it. Video synthesis tools are not good enough yet to be able to fake that kind of thing. So you need to do things in the content you create that machines don't. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to flub a word. It's okay to to laugh and to have dialogue that isn't the way a machine would write. The machines will get better, and as they do, we'll need newer and better ways to demonstrate authenticity, but that's one way of doing it. You could even go so far as live streaming, right? Possibly live streaming your content creation with a studio audience, or at least giving people a chance to watch it so they can validate that you are, in fact, doing what you say you're doing, that you're really there doing that sort of thing, because it's really hard to fake video stuff in an actual live stream. That's how you tackle authenticity. You disclose. You make content that's difficult for machines to replicate, and you go all in on transparency. Is authenticity valuable? The rational answer is maybe. And I say maybe because there is a percentage of the audience that absolutely will value authentic human-led stuff. People are really, really all in on it. But the question is whether or not you can afford to do that. Can you afford artisanal, handcrafted, small batch content creation when your competitors are all using mechanized methods with AI? I go back to this example from agriculture. One person can pick a bushel of corn on a farm in about 10 to 20 hours. It is hard work. It's rough work. It's very labor intensive. A John Deere X9 1100, which is like the size of a house, it's a combine, can pick 7,200 bushels of corn on a farm in an hour. Right. One person, 10 hours. One person, one bushel, 10 hours. One person driving this machine, 7,200 bushels in an hour. Can you sell, in this example, artisanal hand-packed small batch corn? Yes, you can. But it will cost much more because you don't have the benefit of that giant machine. Will people pay that much more for it than for a nearly identical product that's picked at a much lower per unit cost? The answer is less clear, especially when the difference is that huge, and we're talking thousands of percent difference. Authenticity only has value if people are willing to pay for it. Authenticity only has value if people are willing to pay for it, whether they're paying in attention or currency or loyalty. The nature of AI, just like the nature of automation and mechanization, means that some things are going to become scarce. Human-led content will become scarce because AI content will be the vast majority of the content because of the scale. Right? Think of the equation everybody hates. Fast, cheap, good, choose two. Right? If you want content that's fast and cheap, good has to be out of the question from a human perspective. What's different about machines is the machines can do all three. Machines can do fast, cheap, and good. AI can do fast, cheap, and good. Humans have to choose. Do we want good and cheap? It ain't got to be fast. If a human does it. If a machine does, then it can be fast, cheap, and good. Authenticity has to be something your audience values enough to pay a premium for. If they aren't willing to pay that premium, then authenticity probably is something you shouldn't worry too much about. And I know that's going to rub a bunch of people the wrong way. A bunch of people are going to find a lot of uncomfortable things in that sentence, but it is the ugly truth. If people are not willing to pay a premium for authenticity, then it's not worth worrying about. So figure out what your audience values and provide it. You may find that your authenticity doesn't value your audience doesn't value authenticity enough to pay for it, to pay more for it. Maybe you pay a lot more for it. Not the most uplifting point of view, but it is the most honest, most authentic, and the one that's reality-based. Okay, so that's the end of part one. There's two parts to this newsletter. Second is how this thing got created, because I want to talk you through the process. Show my work. Authenticity, right? Since the newsletter is free, authenticity is a nice add-on because I don't charge you more for an authentically human-made one. I did this in a different methodology because I had a bit of a mess of ideas and I didn't feel like typing. So here's how I built today's episode. First, I had this collection of 7 or 8 random thoughts about what is real, which I put in a notebook. When I'm out and about, I often jot down like sentence fragments, and then later on I go, what did I mean? But there's something there in those fragments. I don't know what it is. So I fired up Google Gemini and said, I want to talk about authenticity in the age of AI. We went back and forth on all the different aspects, some of which made it into the newsletter. And then I said, here's my notes. Here's the notes I jotted down. I want you to work these into an outline. Build me an outline for this issue of my newsletter. Actually, I said build me an outline for a keynote because it tends to write better narrative flow that way. Write a newsletter as a prompt, it doesn't seem to work quite as well. I don't know why. It just seems to be the way the model behaves. So I put the outline up on front of the screen. I turned on Adobe Audition, the voice recording software, and started recording. And I recorded myself reacting to different pieces of the outline, just reading it out loud. I skipped some parts because it was a very comprehensive outline. Too much. And there are some other pieces that probably should wait for another week or another issue because I think they were distracting. So I recorded myself talking through the outline, and then I took the recording through transcription software to get the exact words I said with all the verbal stumbles and hash and repetitions and lost train of thought and rat holes and you name it. And I took the audio file, turned it to a transcript, and then that gets put back in Gemini with a transcription prompt I used to clean up transcripts. It said clean up grammar, spelling, punctuation, but preserve my words, preserve my writing, my tone of my tone of voice, my writing style, etc. Preserve me. I want the newsletter to sound like me. I want it to be consistent week to week so that you know what you're getting. It's a differentiator. I don't want to sound like anyone else. I want to sound like me. Gemini cleans up the transcript. I turn on the video camera, and here we are. I put the newsletter right on screen, just above the camera. So you will notice me from time to time, like looking at like, oh, what did I write there? So that's the process I use to create the issue. It is different from my normal process. Usually I just write it out, but I wanted to try this approach because I didn't have a fully baked point of view on the topic. I needed that dialogue partner, which was AI, to talk through these ideas and then to clean up the process and build it out. And there are still bugs. There are still little weird oddities in the text, even after I did an editing pass, because that's the nature of AI. But now you know how it was made. And as always, if you want help building this sort of thing with your company or with your work, hit me up. There's a link in the newsletter. All right, what else happened this week? I did a piece this week on how Rachel Ray's kitchen is a great analogy for generative AI. I think it's worth reading. We also did a live stream this week on how to do audience analysis with the data you have and out of tools like Google Analytics 4, Google Search Console, and a couple other ones, which is a fun live stream. If you are building audience profiles to figure out your marketing and who you're marketing to, go watch that episode. All right, let's see what we got here for jobs this week. We have brand marketing manager at Fourth Floor, email marketing manager at Sage Group, field marketing manager at Better Health Group, growth marketer at Edgehog. That's clever. Integrated marketing manager at Delmar Mortgage, marketing manager at Ascendian, marketing manager at New Tech Biosciences, marketing manager at Riddler Road Rally. It's a mouthful. North American marketing manager at Huafon. Partner marketing manager at Included Health, product marketing manager at Basis Technologies, senior audience marketing manager at CTG, senior YouTube's performance marketer at Morgan Mace, and technical growth marketer at Storylane. So lots of management jobs happening this week. Just a couple of months out from MACON, the Marketing AI Conference. Stay tuned to my YouTube channel next week. Gonna have a little something fun for that. And then, of course, Marketing Props B2B Forum shortly thereafter, and a few other events that we're working on the paperwork for. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you for watching or listening or however you got this episode, and I will talk to you on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you want to know when new videos are available, hit the bell button to be notified as soon as new content is live.